Can HYBE, now the next question is, and actually this was a question, I joked about this when I heard about this law firm saying that HYBE can actually get delisted. My immediate reaction is that, by God, just move your operation to the US. So I was like, why not just get HYBE America to and to go public? Just I, oh my God, it's like the imagine, and it's one thing, it's one thing to get roped into any kind of trouble when it is substantial, right? When there is grounds. But most of the things that HYBE is actually dealing with, they're so childish that if it is me, I would be so pissed because I'm paying my lawyers to deal with childish accusations. So I'm like, just move it to the US. Nobody's gonna care the same way we don't care about the members going in and out of the airport. We're not going to care about who's managing who. I mean, how many the amount of troubles that executives of music industry of the music of the majors, the amount of troubles that executives in major labels have gotten themselves in, the amount of controversies that owners of big corporations have gotten themselves in. We don't That doesn't translate to the artist. It's like, oh, this guy's a scumbag, get him out of the company. That's how we deal with it here in the US. So I feel like, why don't you just make HYBE America go public and let what, if Korea doesn't want you, just move. Okay, so that's why I posted in X and I said that HYBE America should just go public. So can HYBE America actually go public? The short answer is yes. HYBE America can actually go public, definitely, uh, but with certain conditions, because as of now they still are considered a subsidiary of HYBE Korea. So if HYBE company is delisted, if HYBE in Korea is delisted, it doesn't automatically prevent HYBE America from going public to the US. They just need to make some preparations. So what kind of preparations do they need to do to get listed publicly in the US? Okay, number one, probably won't it won't move forward. Number one is a reorganization. So they need to reorganize the ownership, possibly spin off or become independently governed. Because right now, as I've mentioned, HYBE America is under HYBE Korea. So what's going to happen is that they could just break away from HYBE Korea. So they're going to operate on their own. The books will be separate, owners will be separate, executives will be separate. It's just going to be a separate company altogether. The same way iGin, the company of Jin, is separate from HYBE. That's that's how it's going to be set up. These are just going to be two separate companies. Next, of course, there are some requirements in SEC, our security commissions, and of course the NYSE, the New York State Stock Exchange. There are certain requirements they need to fulfill. All of those requirements, and mostly it's about finances, assets, what you're doing, the kind of business that you are pursuing, and all of those things. And then, of course, they need to demonstrate financial independence and governance credibility. So that means they need to establish that HYBE America, indeed and in documents, will not be under HYBE Korea anymore. That's the first step. And then you go through all the legal requirements in order to get listed. What would HYBE need to do in order to get there? Okay. So they need to do a corporate restructuring. That's the first step. Spin off HYBE America into a standalone entity, reduce majority ownership to avoid foreign parent control scrutiny. So right now, majority of the ownership is on Bang Shio. He might have to let go of some shares and give it to BTS. uh, but so that in the US, because in the US, foreign entities are not allowed to earn certain things. They're allowed to own certain things, but there are also limits to that. So he needs to comply to that limit in order to not be viewed as a foreign parent control. Uh, for in order for HYBE America to not be viewed as a subsidiary and not view HYBE Korea as a foreign parent that controls HYBE America. Okay, hope that makes sense. So they just need to establish US based board of directors, independent management, and as I've said, different ownership structure. So if I am Bang Shiuk, I'm just going to give some of my shares to BTS. We're all done. Okay, of course, they need to do some financial disclosures. There is a gap compliant financials. These are very very technical terms, things that you do when you go public. I have never led a team in taking a company public. I've been a part of it, but not I've never led, and that happened when I was very very young, so like maybe 20 pounds ago. So next is audited statements going back to 2 to 3 years. Okay, and then they will have to prove revenue independence. So right now, a lot of the income of HYBE is still coming from Korean acts. HYBE America has been relentlessly investing on companies. So they need to make sure that when they go public, they can prove that they won't be highly reliant on Korean acts, that the American acts will actually be enough to sustain the business. And they do have a lot of artists signed under them. I know that you know that they own quality control, and then so they have a lot of artists there. So this part I'm not really worried about. The other thing is that they could structure the contracts of BTS so that HYBE America will be their label when they are doing in activities in the US. So that's another. But it is important for SEC to actually see that they are getting other sources of income other than BTS, not highly reliant on BTS. Okay, next, they need to file some forms. It's called an S1 with the SEC for IPO registration. These are some. This is actually the easiest part of it because it's like really filling up the form. It's providing the documentation that will actually be difficult. Address any reputational or legal baggage from the Korean parent. So if there's any kind of controversy in South Korea, they're gonna have to explain what happened, why did you get delisted, stuff like that. They can do that. That's a minor thing. It's a minor consideration. Next, there are precedents. So there are companies from other states or other countries that have actually gone public. So they have a company in another country, and it's public there, and then they went public in the US as well. Alibaba is one of them. They have a parent in China, a parent company in China, but in the US they actually are listed via the Alibaba Group Holdings, and it's registered in Cayman Island. And then there is Arms Holdings, UK based chip firm that spun off and IPO'd in the US under SoftBank. And then there's Baidu, Didi, Luckin Coffee. Some of them got delisted in Chinese companies and then saw listing in the US after major corporate clear ups. So it has been done before. They can definitely do it again. Okay. So what are the risks? We're geeking out here. I hope that you don't mind. Okay, what are the risks? One is the loss of investor trust, right? Because if you're moving from one country to another, the first question of people would be, well, why are you doing that? Why are you just not doing I mean, Samsung didn't have to relist, right? So US investors might be like, I'm not sure. If you can't handle your business in your home country, how can you handle your business in here? And then there's the reputational spillover. It's kind of similar. If you had troubles in your own country, that could get carried over here. There could also be funding obstacles. The parent company may struggle to inject capital or coordinate global operations. So if there is HYBE Korea and then they will have to put money in HYBE America. I don't know if they have enough. And then the legal baggage. US investors or US regulators may probe connections if the listing involved fraud or unfair trading. Okay. Now, what are the advantages? One is that HYBE America could position itself as a US focused entertainment and IP company, distinct from HYBE Korea's political and media drama. And I think this is going to be the biggest consideration. As I've said, one of the things that's really pissing me off about this entire thing is that a lot of it is really juvenile. If they get listed in the US instead of in Korea, we're just going to leave all of that behind, right? It's just because you know how businesses are operated here. CEOs can get caught having an affair with somebody in a Coldplay concert. It doesn't mean that the company is going to tank. They will just fire the CEO, but the company is going to continue operating. See, that's a clear example. Um, it was a very, very public scandal. They got caught with their arms around each other. He's married, she's married, he's got kids. The company is fine. They just fired him. In fact, people are just laughing about it. It's not, no one is saying like that company is illegal, that company is immoral, the entire thing has to be destroyed. Nah. It for us, it's just like you got what you deserve, you a-hole. Okay, move along. Or just gonna make a meme out of you until a new one, a new source of entertainment comes along. In the meantime, it's you. That's it. That's what's going to happen. So that's how in America, that's how we look at things. Just because the CEO is doing something wrong doesn't mean that the entire house has to be burned down. So that's one advantage if they move to the US. Whatever trouble Hybe is going to get into or Bang Shiuk is going to get into, whatever scandal they throw his way, it will not mean that we would want the entire company to fall apart. In the first place, we're very, very aware that there are employees in that company. They're trying to pay their bills, they're supporting their families. Let's not get them involved in that freaking SEO CEO of astronomer having an affair with this. That's his deal. That's his problem, not the problem of the entire company. Okay, all right. He's going to be that Coldplay couple is going to be around for a while. Okay, next, Hybe America, of course, owns Scooter Braun's former company SB Project, and he will have whatever IP SB Project has will be now in Hybe America. US IPO will also equal higher valuations. So more growth capital, especially if they present a global entertainment vision like Disney or UMG. And with the restructuring of regulations and laws, where the government is now favoring local companies, right? The government is making a lot of changes so that companies that are here, registered here, will be favored more. Then they will enjoy that benefit if they just list here because they will be treated as a local company as opposed to being a subsidiary of a foreign company. The US market may care less about K fandom, infighting, and more about revenue growth and IP diversification. As I've mentioned, we will not care about that. We won't care if Bang Shiuk gets caught having three girlfriends at the same time. We're not gonna care about him gaining weight, about one of the artists getting caught smoking pot or whatever. We don't care about that in terms of the company. We're just going to at the same way we're doing it with this Coldplay couple. They are the meme of the year. That's what's going to happen. We're going to make a joke out of it. We're going to have fun. But again, we're not, in terms of the company, we're not going to ask for that company to get dissolved just because the owners or the executives are doing something wrong. Okay. And next, of course, a public US listing could help attract top tier executives, tech leaders, and creators in LA and, of course, in New York City. If Hybe, now let's look at the risks. If Hybe Korea continues to spiral because of all the things that people are doing, US investors may view Hybe America as too intertwined. So, although I don't think that's going to happen, but still a possibility. If the market perceives HYBE America's value as too dependent on BTS, then that could also spell trouble. People are not going to feel inclined to invest. However, I also am not very worried about that because they do have a very thick portfolio. We're just not aware of it because, like, for example, quality control is actually operating independently. Like they're just doing business as usual. And of course, the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, may scrutinize the same financial governance issues being investigated in Korea before it is allowed to actually go public. And investors may be confused about who controls what. So those are the disadvantages if they actually go public in the US. So I think at this stage, the advantages still outweigh the disadvantages. Now, let's just remember that all these things about HYBE being too reliant on BTS, um, that may be true to a certain extent. They're still reliant on BTS. Although in the last 2 years, they have proven that they can stay afloat without BTS direct involvement. But let's also remember that they have acts like TXT and the Seraphim who are actually going on tours, selling out their arena tours. And there are many Western artists that are not even able to sell out theaters. So they actually have a lot, many of their artists are actually bringing in enough money. If you compare it to the artists that many Western majors, the major labels have, there are very few in relation to the amount of roster that they have. HYBE actually has more artists that can bring in money compared to the amount of artists that majors have that can bring in real money in relation to the total roster that they have. So, for example, for HYBE, just an example, if in total they have like 10 artists, six or seven of that, they're bringing in money in terms of sales and in terms of tour, as opposed to Universal that has 100 artists, but only two or three are actually bringing in money in terms of sales and in terms of tour. So they may have less, but it's more efficient. Okay. Next, if Hive decides to do more paid play listing or do the same types of marketing efforts that other agencies are doing in the US, they will actually be able to position themselves better, exert more influence on radio, and of course control a little bit more of the public opinion, which in the end will lead to mainstream recognition. It's just that at this moment, I think Hyde just refuses, or maybe it's the artists that are just refusing to do paid play listing, all the tricks that other even K-pop artists are actually using. So, a lot of K-pop artists that are signed with US labels, they enjoy the connection of the US label with radio. They get playlisted, all of those things. So, in the eyes of the public, it seems that they're bigger than they actually are. They go on tour, they can't sell out a theater. So, that is an example on how it's actually tilted. The impression is incorrect because from the mainstream point of view, it seems that hype artists are smaller when in fact they are bigger because they're the ones that are actually selling out their tours. They're actually bringing in money for their sales, as opposed to other K-pop artists. It's all media blitz, no real money coming in. Okay, so do you have questions?